Hello everyone, it's Michelle here. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I set up my new bullet journal for 2019. This is going to be a great video for those of you guys who have never had a bullet journal before and maybe you're interested in the idea but you don't quite know how to set that up. These are pages that I have found very helpful to keep in the beginning of my journal, just to keep on track with any goals I have for the year and especially for the new year if you have resolutions. The journal I'll be using for today and for the whole year is this Moleskine, I don't know if I'm saying that right, journal, but I don't know if you can see, but it actually is the official bullet journal, so I thought this would be a good one for beginners. The most important thing I think is that it has grids inside, but you can use any notebook that you may have gotten for Christmas or that you already have laying around. For a very long time, I've been using these Moleskine journals. They're just like skinny little paperback journals, and that might also be a really good option if you're kind of nervous about starting a journal, because I know sometimes when you have like a really pretty hardcover journal, you don't really want to ruin it, especially if you don't know what you're doing. These are really good practice journals, and they have grid lines inside as well. So like I said, today's video is going to be more of like a overall yearly setup video. If you want to see a January plan with me, then you can click back to my last video where I walk you through how I did a simple snowflake theme, also great for beginners if you're just starting out. So everything we're going to be doing in this journal is a setup, and then the January pages would go after that. So if you want to see how I set up my January bullet journal, then keep on watching. So here's a closer look at the journal that I'll be using, and I'm going to link the exact one down below in case you're interested in getting this one. So inside there are grid marks, little dotted grid marks for you, just so that makes it really easy for you to draw all of your boxes and grids and to write straight, of course. And then in the back there's a little guide that kind of explains bullet journaling for you. So if you're new to this, again, this is really good to have just for you to refer back to. In the front they also have a couple of pages that are already marked off for the future log and the index, and then on the front they have sort of a key for the bullet journal symbols, which I don't use, but if you do, then it's great to just have those already there for you. I'm gonna go ahead and write my name just so that everyone knows this is my journal. And then before I go on to the future log, I'm gonna go to the next blank spread and I'm going to create a reference page, just numbering it from top to bottom and from left to right, just so that I can always refer back to how many grid spaces there are if I ever need to divide it for a certain number of boxes. Alright, now I'm going to get started with the future log, and this is kind of just like a yearly overview. So I'm going to create little calendars for each month, just really small ones on the left side of each page, and then next to each of these calendars I'm going to just write important dates. So this can be things like birthdays, holidays, any vacation days you have, just a nice place for you to compile all of your important days. For the titles of each of these months, I am just doing a very simple style. I am writing all of the months in all caps, then drawing a rectangle around it, and then creating sort of like a drop shadow rectangle around that. I think this is just a very easy, doable style, perfect for beginners, and it looks really cool. It's like a nice typographic element that's super easy to do. I'm just going to go ahead and finish off the rest of the months on the next page very quickly. It's pretty simple stuff, nothing too crazy. Again, this is a guide for beginners, so I wanted to keep it very simple. Alright, so now I'm back at that reference page that I started with my measurements earlier. I'm just going to create a very simple box because I had a bunch of empty space on this page that I wanted to use. So I figured since this is a reference page, I'm just going to go ahead and create a bunch of different fonts and type styles for different titles. This is just so that when I'm going through my bullet journal, if I ever need to start a new spread and I can't think of a style for a title that I want to do, then I can just refer back to this page and just pick one of the styles from this list. This is a great way for you to practice different ways to make your title stand out, and what I like to do to get inspiration for these is just pull up Pinterest or Instagram, and I just like to look at other people's journals and yeah, just come up with a list of some of my favorite ideas here. So I'll just leave this on in the background in case you're interested in following along with any of these title styles. For the other side of this spread, I'm going to use it to track some things in my life that I want to concentrate on this year. So for me, that's going to be finances. So I have a debt I want to pay off this year, and I just created a large grid for that on top. And then my other two things I want to keep track of are YouTube and Instagram. But of course, this is different for everyone. Some ideas for things that you can include on your spread are saving up for a trip or a big item that you want to purchase. Maybe you can keep track of weight loss if you have any goals in that area. Just anything to track your progress throughout the year. And at the top, I didn't want to put anything that was really negative. Most of this page is for the debt I want to pay off, but I feel like if I just wrote debt on the top, that's kind of just, it creates more anxiety than it needs. So instead, I wanted to put a nice little motivating quote on top that just says one step at a time. And I think this is a great little phrase that works for any type of progress that you want to track. For the next page, I'm making a list, and this is a list that I actually do every year, and I like to call it 25 things while 25, and this changes based on how old you are. So if you're 40, then it's 40 things while 40, and then you would write 40 things. So for me, it's 25 things, and I just want to have this list to be kind of a tracker of big events in my life, but it can also be little things like, say you started bullet journaling this year, then you can have started bullet journaling as one of your things for the year. I just think it's kind of a nice idea to have one of these things every year of your life. Then on the other side, I'm going to have a little travel log, and this is actually going to be a little more involved than the other ones. The other ones are mostly just numbered lists, but I wanted to kind of challenge myself and do something fun, so I'm going to create an illustrated travel log that has a bunch of these little Instax prints on the page. But actually these are super easy to draw because they're basically just rectangles. But in each of these, I'm going to create little illustrations throughout the year of places I visited, and it doesn't even have to be big, like maybe a country I've never visited. It could even be just like weekend trips if it's, it can even just be weekend trips somewhere close by, or maybe just a camping trip, something like that. I think it's just nice to keep track of different places in this way. And then I just decorated it with a little quote on one of the Instax prints, and then I also drew a little airplane with a trail going through the page. For a couple of the prints, I thought that there wasn't much space for me to include an illustration, so I just drew in a couple of illustrations on a couple of the prints just so that you can get an idea of what this will look like later on, but I really love how that spread came out. It's probably one of my favorites of this journal. Then for the next page, I'm going to create a list of food because I really like food. Every week I have a meal plan that I plan out in the beginning of the week, and sometimes I can't really think of any meals that I want to cook, so on the left side of this page, I'm going to include all of my favorite meals that I have cooked before, and then on the right side, I'm including meals that I haven't cooked before but that I want to cook. And then down the middle, I just illustrated these simple little food doodles, which I actually don't really like how this came out. I think it would look much nicer if I had just left them as normal lists. So if you don't like drawing, this is great. Just leave that part out. Then on the right side, I just created that same little header in a box for video ideas. This is probably not something you are going to need, but you can just have the space for any kind of list that you want to keep track of. Then on the next spread, I'm going to create another basic list on the left side for TV shows and movies that I want to watch. And then on the right side, I'm gonna create a book tracker for books that I read, but this one is going to be another illustrated one, just because I thought this was very simple, even though it's an illustration, and I still think that anyone can do it. It's basically just drawing a bunch of rectangles. So I drew this simple little bookshelf illustration with a bunch of empty books on there, and every time I finish up reading a book this year, I'm going to write in the title on one of the spines of these books. Last year my goal was to read 20 books, and I have just about reached that, and this year I think my goal is going to be to read 24 books. So I think this will just be a nice place for me to keep track of all of the things I read throughout the year. So that brings it to the end of this bullet journal setup. I'm just going to do a little flip through of all of my finished spreads. Again, if some of these pages are not relevant to you, then feel free to leave them out, and you can always substitute with pages that you think are more helpful. If I've left anything out that you think is very important to have in a bullet journal, then make sure to leave it down in a comment below, and maybe I can add it onto mine or include it next year. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked it, make sure to click the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel for more bullet journaling videos like this. I just want to emphasize that not every bullet journal has to look exactly like it does online. The most important thing is that you make it work for you. I actually don't even use the official bullet journal system, which is like a dot and then you put check marks or arrows, whatever. I do what works for me, and I think that's the most important thing, to make this a system that you will keep coming back to time and time again to help you be more productive and to reach your goals. With that being said, I hope that this video is helpful to you, and feel free to copy my pages if you want and tag me on Instagram if you recreate any of these. I hope you guys have fun setting up your new bullet journal for the year, and I hope to see you again next time.